Steph Ogden, welcome to Conversation Bytes.
Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
Firstly, tell me about your job title and your responsibilities in the region.
So I'm Managing Director for Australia and New Zealand, and my remit really is to run the sales team and the product and marketing teams. We're a sales and marketing-led organisation, so the main focus for me is to ensure that we've got the teams and we've got the products and that we've got the channel relationships to keep our business growing and moving.
So what sort of boss are you?
I think I'm a great boss. I've built a very successful business in New Zealand. I had a fabulous team of people around me. I'm firm but fair.
When did you build that team in New Zealand?
2001 through I came to Australia 2009.
Right.
So I had a good stint there and built a very strong, predictable business in New Zealand. It was a lot of fun. It was in the heyday of Belkin changing, as we went from that sort of component company where Chet was engaging with partners like Apple, and we were building products for the first iPods, and I mean that was that was a really exciting time from a technology. Yeah. Yeah, the All Blacks have done a reasonable job.
We were winning back then, but
and I think that coming to Australia, and obviously I was director of sales for 5 years prior to being in this seat. There's a lot of learnings that you garner along the way, and I pride myself on the people that I have surround me. They make me. They make who I am. I love to think that I empower them to do their jobs and trust that they do their jobs with my support and me imparting the vision and strategy from a global standpoint and then taking them on that journey.
Some CEOs, some bosses are very reluctant to have really smart people around them because they see them as a threat. What's your philosophy on that with talent?
I believe that every leader in my business has been hired to do a job. My finance manager is an expert in finance. I am not. My marketing manager is an expert in her field. I am not. And what my management team do collectively is bring together the vision that I'm held to account for and the delivery of our strategy. So if they're doing their jobs in effect, under my leadership, then we'll deliver what we need to for our global parent.
Just go back, just dig a little bit deeper into your New Zealand background. Where did you grow up?
So I went to school in Wellington, in windy Wellington.
Yeah, great spot.
And then the start of my working career took me to Auckland. So I lived on the North Shore for most of my working career in New Zealand, and I miss it a lot. All my family is still in New Zealand. This Australia's been my home for the last 10 years, and it's been a great journey.
What is it about New Zealand that makes it punch above the weight? I mean, we always say that in Australia, but no one punches above their weight like New Zealand. About 5 million people now. It's
a really interesting question because I was just talking about this with a colleague the other day, and we were talking about the differences in culture between Australia and New Zealand. And although we're cousins, in my experience, the way that business is done in New Zealand is actually really different. It's a lot more based. It's based a lot more on relationships because it's very small. It's a very small industry, and we think Australia's a small industry. New Zealand's, most people have worked in every company, and certainly in CE, and have moved around or have grown up in that business. Right. And so, as an example, one of my colleagues in New Zealand, who's one of the GMs at a New Zealand retailer, we all sort of grew up together in the. So there's a real sense of tight knit kind of working community where Australia is more broad, and I think it's more commercially challenging. There's different pressures and different ways of doing business in Australia versus New Zealand.
So do you think you're in a unique position to straddle the two nations?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I still, as I said, New Zealand still is under my remit. I'm there usually every quarter, still engaging with the customers. and obviously because of my
you need an office in Queenstown.
My New Zealand team would love that, I'm sure. So yeah, it does give me, I think, the ability to have a really fair and balanced view on what's happening with the business in New Zealand, and what's happening with the business in Australia.
So how big is the company Australia New Zealand? How many staff?
There's 43 at the moment across both.
And you're based at the Central Coast. That's not something you always see, is it? Central Coast being a hub for an international tech company. But what's that like?
It's fabulous for the people on the Central Coast. We've been up there since Chet acquired a small company called Microdigital. That's where they were based, in West Gosford.
What did they do?
They were doing like network cards for cables, telephone adapters back then. So the synergies between the two were ideal, and their warehouse was up there. So I think that business had been in its form for quite some time, and there was a lot of staff up there. They had a distribution facility, and I think it at the time it made sense to carry on the business and support the local community with great jobs and great people.
But you mentioned Chet, the one of the founders. So Belkin, like a lot of companies in the United States, started in a garage. Just putting some cables together. Tell me about that. A great story about that startup sort of culture, and what how you regard the founders of the company. Who are still around. Yes,
Chet is still very involved in the business. So he started the business in 1983 in his mum's garage. And as I understand it, he'd gone to it was like a Sam's Club or to go and try and find a cable for a computer, and he couldn't find the cable he needed. So he went home and built it, and really just started from there, as there was a need for that. And then I think he sold 100, and then there was demand that grew, and that's how the business was born. And for the years after his mum's garage, and then the move from Compton to what they call Silicon Beach now, which is in Playa Vista, where there's some other great tech companies, is really a reflection on the youthfulness and the fun in the brand. So it's been an amazing journey, and I think under the leadership of Chet, and obviously he's been my mentor, and his philosophies, the way he works, he's a very authentic and humble leader. He is a tech visionary. There's been so much that he's brought to market, sometimes early, before the technology's been fully adopted, but a great leader. He's very focused on people, and I think that kind of ethos and the way he works has flowed down to all the regions, and the people that he's recruited around him have that same kind of people-focused ethos.
Do you have much to do with him? Not just on a corporate front, but just personally, advice, that sort of thing?
Not so much day to day. I now report to the VP for Belkin, which is Steve Maloney. But prior to that, up until 3 years ago, I was reporting directly into Chet, and so have been fortunate enough to have the most...
And what's that like? What's he like to deal with?
He's inspirational. He's thought-provoking. He is not dictatorial. He's very good at promoting thought out of questions, and gets you to think outside of the box without telling you what you should be doing, which really speaks to the sort of leader he is. Certainly around the product innovation, and he's very inspirational.
What's it like dealing with founders? Because founders are different to people that come into other companies, and Silicon Valley's like that. So founders, it's their baby, isn't it? And sometimes they just don't want to let it go, and that might be at the detriment of their expansion. But what's it like to deal with a guy who created it?
As I said, I think it's inspirational. He's still incredibly passionate about our business. And I think since the merger with Foxconn Interconnect Technologies, he's been somewhat removed and is really working with the Foxconn team on things that are going to continue to support the growth of our business. So we're talking about scalability, what FIT can bring to the business. So Chet's still, super involved, but he's doing it on more of a, I guess, an overarching, partnership basis with FIT. To ensure that the products that we continue to bring to market are realising the benefits of what FIT bring to the table for Belkin.
Yeah, and we can see him here in action. Is what I like about these guys like Chet is that they really live and breathe and the tech. Yeah. They're just the ultimate geeks, aren't they?
And a great example of that is the recent CES trade show in Vegas, and it's one of Chet's most favourite times of the year. And over the probably 15 years that I've been going, perhaps longer, he is on the floor every day, meeting with the customers, talking to obviously press, and still has that very connected, personal touch. And as I said, it's his baby, and he's still just super passionate about the business.
But, I mean, you've got to run the company down here in Australia and New Zealand. And we aren't the biggest market in the world, but why is it that tech companies still are essentially tolerate Australia's and New Zealand's small populations? What is it about this region that still sees us, Apple still rolls out stuff early to us rather than other countries? That's an example.
I think certainly, when I talk about some of the go-to-market strategies that we have for ANZ, one, they're very different than the way sometimes that the US operate. They're very different markets, and sometimes we roll things out early it's almost like a test, like a test bed. Yeah. A great example, even. With that is our screen overlay application system, where we've chosen to roll out in New Zealand first versus Australia because it's a smaller market. And geographically it's a lot easier to get around and launch products properly. And looking at what we do really well, looking at where there might be opportunities for improvement in execution and sometimes in product portfolio. So I think that we gain different insights and we share that globally. We still work very closely with our global counterparts. So I think it's adding another layer to some of the insights that global can get from region. We play partly in a commoditized space, which is cables and some of the wall chargers where everybody's playing, and I think that as a business we've recognised and a while ago the need to diversify the product portfolio. What does that mean? Us starting to.
Does it mean something like this?
It does mean something.
And
like
what is that for our people who are listening and not seeing it?
So Belkin have made the commitment. Probably almost 18 months ago to get into audio. We've come from an audio background.
Gee, that's a crowded field.
It is. And I think that with the manufacturing scope we have with FIT is really helped us form that strategy and decision. The partnership with DVLA on this Soundform Elite speaker.
So we're looking at a speaker charger system.
Yeah, and one of the wonderful things about this product is that it's got, I think it's sound active matching, which is a DVLA IP, which means that when the sound is coming out of it, it comes out exactly how the artist intended you to hear it. And this is a very kind of unique to DVLA, and the way that the bass speakers have been set up in this eliminate any vibration. So when you're wireless charging, you have to have your phone on the coil that wireless charges your phone. So it eliminates the vibration, which means that your phone is always going to be static and on the
that's good.
Wireless charging.
I will say that everyone's saying that now, that we've got this artist this is how the artist intended, and that's what I mean. It's a crowded market space where everyone's pushing for it. I think what you're doing is you're adding what you already have to the speaker system, which gives the consumer, like, I can just buy a sort of all-in-one product rather than buying a couple of things.
And as I was mentioning previously, we need to evolve and keep bringing new products and products that are relevant to consumers to market. And yes, we are experts in the field of wireless charging. We've got a wonderful roadmap coming through the pipeline over the next 12 months, and our quality and the partnerships we've got. It makes sense for us to really start focusing on new product categories that will potentially fill some of the gaps.
So I did a really huge story a couple of years ago with the 7 Network on wireless charging, but over distance. So I did a story on resonance charging, and I saw it working. So it goes through people over distance. Qi charging is fine, but it's very limited. And whereas resonance enables you to do high power over distance and reasonably safe. Where are you guys placed maybe on that, and where you think, because the old holy grail is to charge a phone across the room?
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, and there are lots of products that are under NDA that I don't find out about until
tell us now.
they come to market. We don't have anything that I'm aware of that's coming to market in the near future. I think we're thinking about what we're working on, and some of the products we were talking about at CES, was a multiple coil charger, so it doesn't matter where you put it.
Yeah. Multiple targets. It's one of the frustrating things for me, putting a phone down, coming back 4 hours later, and knowing that I haven't matched it up.
The coils,
with the coil,
yeah.
Which is why you need something that pushes the phone into a spot for you.
Yeah.
That's
absolutely.
my design input.
Yeah,
because I do do a lot of it. And the other thing is making wireless charging as efficient as a plugged-in charger. That's also an effort to overcome.
Yeah, and there's definitely some technology challenges around that. Obviously, with when the device heats up, the charging mostly drops down to 5 watts anyway, and that's a safety precaution. That's not exclusive to our product. Do
you share this sort of IP, I'm trying to word this question the right way, where you work with other organisations, and I'll give Oppo as an example. Oppo, with their SuperVOOC charging, is able to do that type of high-powered charging by splitting it through basically the way they split up the battery to charge it in a safe way, but very quickly, and it's cool to touch. But they're looking at their own sort of trademarked and patent system. So everyone's sort of doing their own thing, and I don't think the consumer wins if everyone's in their own little pocket. Where do you stand on that?
And I agree. And we've got different standards of charging, and we always talk to our channel partners about what is the consumer seeing when they're coming into a store, and they're not asking you for a USB-C cable. They're saying, I need a cable for my phone, or I need a charger for my phone. They don't know whether it's USB-A, USB-C, micro. It's so. I think that standardization across the industry is a really good thing, because it gives the consumer a great experience, and the easier it is for them, that it has a waterfall of positive impact, is that you don't get returns back because it's the wrong cable for the wrong phone. You don't, So absolutely, I think that it does cloud the purchasing decision for the consumer.
And even as a tech expert and a production guy, I run into this issue all the time, because I'm always picking up a USB Type-C cable that will not work with one phone or the other when I use microphones and stuff like that. It absolutely, Steph, frustrates the hell out of me.
It frustrates me, and I sell the stuff,
Well, it's not your stuff. It's the stuff that comes with them, but they get mixed up, and you go, oh no, this is for the Pixel phone, not for the Samsung or whatever.
Great example is I have on my kitchen bench at home, I have what used to be a salad bowl, and is now full of cables and wall chargers, because I'm not, my wireless speaker needs micro, my battery pack needs USB-C, all Lightning. So it's.
See, I actually see that as a good thing, because of your position and what you do, is that you experience it yourself. And going back to what Chet did back in the garage, it's that frustration. And I see it myself with production gear. There's stuff that people don't make that I want to see made, but you actually work for a company that can make it. So I wish I could do that. I could go down to the garage and build something. But, I mean, it's good because you're there, you can say, listen, this I've encountered it. I've got this kitchen full of cables all over the place. Let's do something about it. And you're in a position to do that.
I think, that's probably a great example of where one of the, I guess the innovation came for a cable with a multi-head. So it's one cable.
I use one all the time.
Yeah, I travel with one. So that charges not only my micro but also my lightning.
I use the HDMI. Mini HDMI,
But I think even for us talking about micro and HDMI and the general consumer still doesn't understand what we're talking about. Yeah. So again, as I touched on earlier, is how do we as an industry work out a language or how the technology or the product will benefit the consumer, and I think that's something that we all need to start thinking about for greater adoption of product or greater adoption of some technologies.
And the other thing is the frustration of, to me, everyone moving to wireless. I don't want that. I mean, I don't know many people that just want to give up their headphone jack just to go to wireless, but we're sort of being forced into it. That to me is an annoying trait for companies. What do you think about that for philosophy, like shoehorning and pushing people to a certain technology when they don't need to? Like they come up with this rubbish stuff, which is, we need some more space in the phone. That is absolute crap. Sorry, I'm on a rant.
Personally, I was very frustrated with that move. I have a corded headset that I love and I still use. I plug it into the adapter into my iPhone. I still do it
when you remember it.
Well, it travels in a little pocket with me in my handbag everywhere I go. And I think it much like, and I know it's all about technology, but moving away from 30 pin, in the old phone to Lightning, and that has an impact on us as in terms of inventory cost. It has an impact on stores because there's a whole lot of changing in pegs that have to go on in terms of their product assortment, and it's confusing for the consumer. And again, I mean, understanding technology, but to answer your question, it impacts because it reduces the ability for attach sales. I mean, Belkin, that's what our business was built on, was attach. So every time you reduce a port, or it reduces some revenue opportunity, but opens revenue opportunity for hubs.
That's true, and I've got one here. And before you go, we're going to talk about, so if you're going to pick up one of your cables there, so those braided cables are the way, and it's got a nice little sort of leather clasp thing there. Style's big for tech companies, isn't it?
It is, and that's heavily driven by the device, fashionability of the device, and recently we've just brought products to market. As an example, when Apple launched the rose gold, the silver iPhones, as we brought out a range of cables that were exactly colour matched to the phones, and it is absolutely an aesthetic thing. Experience.
What do they like to work with for Apple?
I've never worked with them directly. Okay. We've had a wonderful partnership with them, obviously led by Chet for many years. And we continue to, from a US standpoint, work on that partnership and bring great products to market.
Their phones last a fair while, don't they? So I think you've still got was it iPhone 7?
7 Plus, yeah.
and what do you like about that?
I love the button.
Yeah.
And it's habit. Old habits die hard sometimes.
I love the fingerprint reader. And
so do I.
I hate the facial scanning as a way to get in the phone. It just annoys me.
I haven't obviously that's not on my phone, so but I will upgrade and I prefer to let the technologies lapse over a couple of years and then really buy a device with great differences to the current device I've got, and it's an investment. It's a fairly hefty financial commitment to a piece of technology that I'm a probably 3 years sort of in terms of cycle purchaser. Same with iPads, same with that's kind of my cycle. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the device launch this year.
I've still got the original iPad, and I want to do a story on it because I think that's a piece of tech that would still work now. It's just whether Apple updates it. But Apple's products last a long time, and I think that's what you're trying to do with your products as well. Those braided connectors, how much do they go for? But are they selling well?
Anywhere from $29, depending on the length of the cable, $29 to $39. And you know, we were touching on before, the frustration from consumers is where the cable frays at the head. And you know, the life cycle that you'll get out of a product like this is you know, years and years. Whereas, you know, we were talking about the PVC plastic cables that fray and split. So quality is absolutely and has been a focus of ours for, you know, as long as I've been with the company, which is...
Because you're right, those cables, even though Apple made great devices, they're almost a afterthought. Well, we need a cable. Let's just whip this together.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably cost based. I don't know that, but you know, the cost of a manufacturing a PVC cable versus a braided cable is quite different.
Oh, I'm going to lean over here and just show you this. I'm going to pick that up. So that there is part of the Velop Wi-Fi mesh system you've got. But the Velop system is really interesting because you introduced another piece of technology which essentially is able to detect movement. I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah, it's very unique.
And what do you call it?
That's called Linksys Aware. And you know, depending on the size of your home, you might have one node, 2 nodes, 3 nodes, whatever coverage you need. So Linksys Aware is a subscription model, and once you subscribe, what happens is you have an app on your phone, and with the nodes around the house, and they've got to be tri-band. It will detect any sort of motion, and then it'll send you a notification. And I think that the unique thing about this product is it means that you know, if you're not investing in cameras and you haven't got that whole setup, is that you set the parameters. If there's motion detection in your house, it will send you
you can set the sensitivity. Yep.
And the other interesting thing is that, you know, once you have the Linksys mesh product, our roadmap in terms of where we're going around healthcare and wellness, we're investing in what we're calling wellness pods, and you've got to have the mesh system, and what that's going to be able to do is detect breathing. They've got to be connected into the mesh system.
Oh, yeah, yep.
But because of the pinging that happens, so the messaging from the wireless signal, it's thousands per second, as I understand it. And so because of the Wi-Fi signal, it can pick up breath. It can pick up whether you're, you know, so it'll be able to measure sleep patterns. If you've got an elderly grandparent or parent that you want to keep an eye on, it's going to be and it'll send you notifications if there's any changes based on the settings you've set it. So it's really exciting for us from a roadmap standpoint, and it's super unique.
Because some people don't like having cameras in their house, and I guess this is an old school sort of motion sensing, isn't it?
And I think that Aware is the first step into this whole detection for you know, for pets, babies.
If something moves in your way.
Yeah.
The other thing too is it's very similar to what MIT are doing, but they're actually using it to visualize through walls, because Wi-Fi is this sort of used tool where you can get a ping back from it, and this is what you're sort of doing. What they were doing is getting a piece of vision back, so it's like a radar. You know, it's fascinating where it's going, but it is this unused resource, really, isn't it?
And it's such a powerful technology, and I think that, you know, as us and all the other players in the market continue to develop around the technology, that's when we're going to start seeing true benefits for additional benefits for folks at home. You know, where it's all about how does this product enhance your lifestyle? How does it add value to your lifestyle? It's instead of it being a big old black box that's sitting somewhere, is you're actually it becomes a part of the way that you're living in your home. So it's a really interesting it's an interesting path that's being set for this type of technology. So
the USB Type-C has been a breakthrough outlet, a plug, hasn't it?
I think you know. There's all sorts of cables that are available in the market, and we've always focused on quality, And as we start bringing products to market that are high power consumption, and we have products that heat up because of the amount of power that's being consumed, you have to have a quality cable that can either support or is shielded to carry that power. To use a non certified USBC cable not only puts your product at risk, but there are true safety issues that people need to be really, really aware of, especially as we get into the things like portable power.
Because USB Type-C can carry a lot of power.
Absolutely. We look at the new charging technology that's coming out, or in terms of wall powers, which is called GaN. And for layman's terms, that means that you can have a lot smaller form factor and charge a lot quicker. So you've got to make sure that part of those certification bodies and boards are, that you're a part of that. The risks in terms of safety, and I know that the ACCC have been very diligent on making sure that compliance is a big part of of tech. So yeah, I think it's really important.
A lot of products that we're buying online don't meet local safety specs, and you could end up burning your house down if you don't have the right cables.
It's a really good point, and I think as an industry...
Is it frustrating for you guys?
Oh, it's hugely frustrating.
Because you spend a lot of money making good quality products.
Yes. And I think that with the support of our channel partners and the way that we're communicating to consumers is going to be key in trying to get the consumers to understand why they are spending a few extra dollars on a wall charger that's certified or a cable that's certified. And the challenge for us as an industry is, how do you demystify the technology and speak to the consumer so that they get it? It's challenging, and it's something that as an industry we're all putting our heads together with our channel partners to try and work out how to relay that message to the consumer.
Yeah, so one of the things that I like seeing is factories where they make this sort of stuff. How much strenuous testing do your products go through?
I mean, we can talk about 1,000 times bend test, and I think that in terms of the production quality, it's the shielding that goes into the cable. It's the fabric on the outside. It's the extended molding on the head, which is all designed and manufactured based on consumer feedback on existing product that's in the market. Perhaps an example would be where you have a family that has a whole lot of plastic cables. In our world, they're called PVC, and the break points, the stress points where the head meets the cable. And so those are just consumer insights that we take on board and turn into a fabulous product that has a much longer lifetime.
I think we've all got yellowing Apple charger cables in my drawer. I've got plenty of those. Where is everything made for Belkin?
It varies. We Foxconn, FIT have some factories in Vietnam.
So anywhere else where things are made? Is anything done stateside, for example?
Some of our KVM product is manufactured in the US, and that's it's another part of the business unit that we have. We've got a great partnership with a vendor up there that builds all the product for us. So I think US is the only other place that we're manufacturing.
One of the big things, and I'll show a shot of this for the people who can see it, is the breakout box that I've got attached to my laptop. I think these things are really important with more dongles. Like dongles I hate dongles with a passion. But thankfully, there are quality dongles, and Belkin makes a lot of them as well. You're going to have to start adding more smarts and more capabilities into these dongles, aren't you? Because they need to do more things other than just giving you 2 extra USB Type A ports, don't you?
Yeah, so some of the products on our roadmap include obviously different monitor ports, gigabit, USBC. and ports that will support legacy devices as well as new devices coming to market. And I think that power pass through, so that you're charging as well as being able to use the hub. So it's moving forward, and definitely on our roadmap we have some great product.
What is the future for Belkin?
At CES we were really proud to showcase our 4 brands. From a Belkin standpoint, still very
Just
much.
remind us what those brands are.
So Belkin, our accessories, we call it the Connected Things division. Linksys and KBM, very focused on those 2 product sets. We call that our connected home. So that's sort of talking to the
Linksys devices here.
Yeah. We are still playing with Wemo, which is all about.
Where's that at?
So Wemo is
And
going
can you
really.
just describe what that is?
Yes, yes. Sorry. So Wemo is a set of products that enables you to control devices in your home. So, as an example,
through PowerPoints and stuff
yes,
like that. Yeah.
Yes, at all light switches, we've got dimming products. So you download the Wemo app and you hook your light system up to the Wemo light switch, and you can set lighting modes. You can set active modes where you turn on a lamp. It might shut your blinds. It might.
Yeah.
So we've been somewhat challenged to continue to bring that, or even bring some of the new product to market, because it's very US centric. So, for example, the dimmers and the light switches are made for the US. Then you go into, how do we bring that to market? How do the commercials stack up? We've got certifications. It has to be installed by an electrician, because it has then inference on your wiring and insurance. And so there's been some local roadblocks around that product, going very strong in the US. So Wemo at this point is US. And then the other really interesting product on the side, which has been a baby of Chet's, is a product called Fin. Which is an under sink or in-home unit that is connected through Wi-Fi and an app on your phone that monitors, measures and manages your water usage.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So really interesting, and I specifically think for
very important for California, obviously, and Australia.
Yes, and it tells you how much water you're using, where you're using it. If for example you're in Canada and your pipes freeze, and there's a split in the pipe and there's a leak, it'll send you the notification that it's leaking. Great for landlords who rent homes. So that's in its infancy in the US, but going very strongly. So quite different business units and divisions, but still very focused on the particular industries that they're being designed and developed for.
Steph Ogden, absolute pleasure to speak to you, and you can leave all the gear right there if you like to. But hey, all the best of luck with Belkin. I think the gear's really good, and I honestly mean that it's really good. So thank you, and hopefully we can chat again on Conversation Bytes.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.